Thank you. So I just wanted to share one of my favorite books. It's called Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World by Haruki Murakami. He wrote it mid 80s. He's a Japanese author, shot to fame during the 80s with his debut Norwegian Wood. And Hard-Boiled Wonderland is a really adventurous story that turned out to be an international hit. It's about it's a sci-fi set in the future about this guy who uses his mind. He programmed his mind to do calculations and is hired out as a freelancer for corporations and government work, and then he'll do little stuff on the side, and these agencies utilize humans instead of computers to do big computations. And there's also this parallel world that they never establish whether it truly is real or if it's a fantasy world that's in the protagonist's mind. But more and more, he starts to slip in his mind, and in the center of all this is this skull, which this eccentric scientist is doing studies on. And he says the sound resonating from the skull sort of creates different data patterns, which starts to create this world in the protagonist's mind. And little by little, he slips into this fantasy world, really his dream world. He loses touch with reality. And it's a fun, interesting read, especially as an introduction to Murakami's work. Murakami does regular adult dramas or more mature dramas, but this is his fun, adventurous side, and it also demonstrates his style of surrealism, and I recommend it as an entry to anyone who's interested in the world-famous Murakami. Thank you.
Awesome. Totally interested now. How many times have you read it? More than once, Michael?
Yeah, I read it initially in high school, and then I pick it up every now and then, every few years.
That's awesome. Any questions for Michael?
Hey, Rose.
Where can we get it, Michael? Is it on Kindle?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. Where can you get it? Yeah, well, it's you can get it in Amazon. You can get it. I'm not sure if you can get it in Kindle, but it's been a major popular book for over 20 years now.
Right on. Okay, I'm going to end this with a special request. Michael and Lakita stayed after class and worked on a really awesome adventure game. Can you guys pull it up and share with us? Is it shareable?
Oh, is it shareable? Let me see here. Hold on a second. Yeah, I could share it. Mic's already on and everything.
Perfect.
All right. Oops. Let me throw it to share screen real quick.
Great.
Here, share screen. Let me see. I ended up working on it a touch more. Just kind of cleaning it up. And I threw in. Okay, so this is what me and Laquita work with, and we got the first page to say at Flappy Joe's with SpongeBob, and it starts with you're at Flappy Joe's amusement park with SpongeBob SquarePants. You see all the wonderful rides and stuff, but then the power lines go zap and it's dark. The lights come up and, oh no, SpongeBob is missing. Should we look for SpongeBob? Yes or no? And if you go with yes, should we start? Where should we start? The haunted house or Futureland? And we can go with haunted house. Whoops. What the heck? And we could go with
It looks like it's might be loading. There you go.
There we go. And we go with haunted house. And you find SpongeBob being chased by a vengeful spirit. and you hit OK, and we managed to be able to change text and outcome with picture. So yeah, me and Laquita struggled with it at first, but then little by little, we started figuring it out and working through it. And then she wanted to keep on upping the game and can we change the text on the thing? And we little by little figured out how to get to where we are. Thank you.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that you guys just kept being dedicated to it and improving it. It looks great. I love that the photos change and the text changes. Great work. All right. So also regarding yesterday, any lingering questions, anything you guys spent more time on and then wondered about that didn't get answered? Nothing? Okay, well, if anything comes up, obviously jump in and stop me, but I'm going to just jump into a little quick preview of the next, kind of like the weekend and the next few days. If you look on the front, the curriculum that we've been following, it says that week 1, day 5 is going to be a halfway hackathon, but we are going to postpone that hackathon for Monday. The reason being is that tomorrow we're going to cover jQuery. And I think covering jQuery is going to give you guys a lot more tools to make your hackathon on Monday a lot more interesting, give you a lot more like tools to work on for your hackathon. What the hackathon is going to involve is we're going to put you in random groups, probably groups of like 3 or 4, let's see. What you can do to prepare before the hackathon Monday is kind of like think about a topic you might want to do. The timeline is going to be very short. We're going to have no lecture on Monday morning, so we're going to just have your groups posted. Maybe we'll meet for like a super quick get together so we can just go over any questions. But basically, like from 9:15 till 11:30, you're going to be like working on this project with your group. And then at 11:30, we're going to meet up and just do quick like 2-minute presentations of everybody's project. The halfway hackathon in the curriculum, that page will probably maybe give you some ideas. Like typical topics have been kind of like Blackjack app or like a to-do app where you prompt the user for something and they just add it to the screen, they can delete it. Just keep in mind that the time will go very fast. The way to develop a topic for hackathon, the advice given is think about what you want to do, cut that idea in half as far as scope, and then cut it in half one more time and start there. Because the 2.5 hours you're going to have to go on it is just going to like blow by. So jQuery is going to be tomorrow to help you prepare for the hackathon. This weekend, what can you do? If you haven't covered the pre-course work, that week 0 kind of HTML, CSS stuff, and you don't have a lot of familiarity with HTML, CSS, we recommend you spend some of your weekend time familiarizing yourself with that kind of stuff. Code School apparently has a free weekend, which could really play to your favor because if you're brand new to HTML, CSS, maybe you want to explore some of their courses. They also have like a jQuery course, which is really pretty great. So maybe put that on your schedule. Just trying to, if you can build up some HTML, CSS skills over the weekend so that you're really ready to it'll help you in your hackathon for Monday. That's awesome. If you already feel like pretty strong on HTML, CSS, and you're kind of wondering what else might I do over the weekend, Git is coming. We are going to talk about Git probably on Tuesday. So Git is different than GitHub. If you've heard both of those words, if you've never heard either of those words, no worries. We're going to go like quite into depth into them. But if you're looking to like kind of jump ahead, look ahead into something, there's this program called Git Immersion, which I've linked to on our useful links. It's a pretty sweet site. It's broken up. I think there's actually like maybe 60 or 80 little lessons, little brief, maybe 5-minute lessons in there. And if you're feeling it, I would recommend going in and like up to, I think it's like 20 to 35. It kind of gets us significantly more into advanced topics around, I think, the 35th or 36th lesson. And up until that point, if you have a chance to even poke into Git Immersion a little bit, it'll help you get, no pun intended, a little more familiar with what is happening with Git before we start diving into it on Tuesday. So Git Immersion is something that you might want to look into before next week if you have time over the weekend. Otherwise, really try to get a little bit of Git puns, thumbs down on Git puns. Really try to get familiar with HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, some of like the front end stuff. Any questions? far as our plan for the next weekend and couple days? Cool. Okay, well, today's topic that we're going to do the curriculum on is while loops. That is a really brief lecture. Literally, I'm going to try to do it in like 5 to 10 minutes. So something I want to throw in today is a little kind of preview into functions. A second here. Michael, I think your mic still might be unmuted.
You're right.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and dump into functions. Raymond, too, for loops, we're going to talk about arrays next week. And we'll get into for loops at that point. So they're similar. They have a lot of similarities. But today we're going to specifically talk about while loops. All right. Well, let me jump into share screen. Okay. Let me go here. Terminal. Oops. 1 second. Forgot to disconnect that. One more time here. Okay, terminal. Okay, so starting off with functions, we're just going to scratch the surface today. I don't think I'm going to be blowing anyone's mind. If you've seen functions before, this will probably be a very review, but I just want to make sure that we're starting to use the exact same language around functions. Starting next week and definitely by the end of next week and all of week 3, we are going to be like in the thick of it with higher order functions and getting into much more advanced functions. So as we start here with the building blocks, we just need to make sure that we're on the same page. So starting with some review, what is that? Who can unmute and tell me what that would be called?
It's a variable.
A variable, I might have missed that last part.
It's a variable A. You're just declaring A as a variable.
Is it a variable declaration?
Exactly. Jomar and George, you're right. It's a variable declaration. So what is this?
An assignment?
Exactly. This is a variable assignment. So very often, right, just like we talked about on day 2, we combine them into one thing, a variable declaration and a variable assignment, 2 expressions combined into one single statement. I declare a variable and I immediately assign it to a value. I'm happen to be assigning it to a value 1. So there's 2 ways to declare a function. The way that we are going to start with and encourage you to use until we introduce the other way is very similar to the way we just declared a variable and assigned it to the value to a value of the type number, here 1. I'm going to declare, use the variable keyword, have this unique identifier. Then I'm going to assign it to a function. I'm going to use this keyword function, open and closing parentheses, and then open and closing brackets where the body of my function is going to live. And then I'm going to close it with a semicolon because this is a statement. Just like this was a statement. 2 expressions, a variable declaration, variable assignment. I just happened this time to be assigning my variable to a function. So inside these brackets, this is the body of the function. This is where the magic happens. This is where you can put all of your logic. And anything you can do outside of a function, you can do inside of a function. I can declare a new variable in here. I can do some if-else action. I can do anything I want that I can do outside of a function, I can do inside of a function. So I am going to do something really simple. Hello, Julmar. I can see you on my screen right now. So why do we have functions? Why didn't I just write this? You can unmute, tell us why. Sorry, I interrupted somebody.
So you don't have to repeat yourself all the time.
Exactly. Scott had like a magic word there. We say keep your coding dry, which stands for do not repeat yourself. So by abstracting this behavior, this console log, into a function, into my func, I can use it all over my code without having to rewrite this whole sentence over and over again. So if I save this file, I'm going to delete this, which just comes out. What's going to happen if I do a like command B right now?
Nothing.
Right. I haven't hit the start button. All I've done is declare this variable. I've just created this in memory and said, hey, I have this variable, my func, and it's equal to this function. To just hold on to that for me, computer. So how do I run it? How do I where's the start button? Where's the run button?
You just write the name with of the variable with parentheses.
Parentheses. Thank you, Ben. The parentheses are how we invoke the function. This is a function invocation. Sometimes we call it calling the function. So now, if I save this and I build it, I get, hello, Julmar. And I can do that as many times as I want, and it will run it for me. Okay, questions to this point. I know it's not anything super crazy, but if it's the first time you've seen it, I just want to make sure that there's nothing that's come up as far as you not understanding right now. Totally lost the chat, so I'm going to have to stop share here briefly so I can grab it again. Okay, I'm going to move on. Got some thumbs up. Sweet. Okay, so this function is kind of like a one-trick pony, right? All I can do is invoke it and say hello to Julmar. Well, there's like 30 of us in class. So what if I want to make my function look a little bit more dynamic? I can give my function parameters. So I'm going to give it a name parameter. I'm going to say see who else can I see on my screen? Ben. Oops, not what I wanted. Now, when I run this function, I get, here I'm getting all the hello Julmars, and then I get hello Ben and hello Scott. So what's going on is when I have defined this function up here, I've given it this parameter. Parameters are like variables that are local to that function. What happens when I invoke the function is sort of variable substitution. I'm giving it this string, Ben. Anywhere that the word name appeared inside the function body, it's going to be replaced now by the string that I've given the function, Ben. That's why I have hello Ben and hello Scott. When you're defining a function, what you put here between the parentheses is called a parameter. Parameter is like a holding, a spot for something to fill that spot at call time when the function is invoked. When I pass this string Ben in, Ben is called an argument. So sometimes those words are used interchangeably, parameter and argument, but the correct way to use them is a parameter is at definition time. It's like it's the variable. The argument is an actual value that you're giving the function to do work with. Get thumbs on arguments and parameters? Sweet. Okay, I can make this function even more interesting or dynamic by giving it multiple arguments. I could say, let's say, stay. Hello, name. It's I'm doing an awful job of mixing double and single quotes. So right now, as the code is run, let's ignore this part. Is it going to work? Is it going to break? What's going to happen if I hit build right now?
It's going to build okay because you. I know you haven't got the day after Scott, but because you've left out the last argument, it's okay.
Niall is right. JavaScript is pretty flexible with parameters and arguments. I can give this function more parameters. I could give it weather and city and never use them. So like you said, if I hit command save, command build, I'm going to get hello, Ben. Oops, I forgot the spacing here. I get hello, Ben, it's Thursday. And when I run this one, I get hello, Scott, it's undefined because the second time I never passed in a day. But it doesn't break it, it runs it, it just tells me it's equal to undefined. I could do the same thing here if I passed in more things. So now I have a few more. So let's say cloudy. San Francisco. Okay, we'll just go with San Francisco. I can pass in true, 5, and hey. Function doesn't really care. I passed it a lot more arguments than it asked for, but still gonna just use the ones that match up in order to the parameters that it's expecting. Any questions? Grab my chat again.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So the items that go in the parameters and arguments, it's only variable.
Hold on one second. I should have kept sharing my screen. So what goes into the parameters, these become variables that are local to this function. When I'm calling it, here I am passing in directly a string, but I could also do this. Like, what if I was asking the user for their name? So I said username equals prompt. What is your name? I can't do a prompt here, right? Because I'm actually using my node build system. I'd have to go to a console to get an answer, but let's pretend I can. Let's pretend the user answers this question. And so username becomes equal to, let's just say Michael. Here, I could pass in, instead of saying Ben, I could say username. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, I was just only looking for the uses of what goes in the parameter. So yes, it does.
Okay, cool. And we're going to stop here for functions. I just wanted to start getting some of this language down, like a function, declaration, parameters, arguments, the idea that we're abstracting over behavior. We're going to go a lot more in depth later, but if we're good here, I'm going to move into while loops. Okay, cool. Some thumbs coming. let's go for while loop. Okay, so a while loop. What is a while loop? I'm going to try to draw again. A while loop is, first of all, why are computers awesome? Computers are awesome because they can do things insanely fast. They can do calculations very fast. They can do the same thing over and over. They have a lot of drawbacks. Like, it can be really hard to communicate with a computer, but when we do communicate with them effectively, they can do things at way faster than a human could ever accomplish them. So while loops are part of how we start to leverage that use. Let me do some drawing. So we're going to use a while loop to tell a computer to do something over and over. Oh, how did I lose that one? Okay, there we go. So while loop is going to go like this. It's going to check this condition, different color. If that condition is true, it's going to follow this part of the arrow, and it's going to do something for us. Then it's going to go back up. It's going to check if the condition is still true, and keep doing something. So let's look at this in code. Declare a variable with I1. Now I'm going to tell it to do something. A while loop's just like a function or like an if block. I could tell it to do anything in here. I could have a function in here. I could declare new variables. I can do whatever inside a while loop. Nothing is kept from me in here. I'm just going to have it console log the value of I. I'm going to increment I. So I can increment I a couple ways. I can assign it to I being, reassign it, I being equal to I plus 1. Another way I can write this is using the assignment, the addition assignment operator, plus equals 1. I could do plus equals 2, plus equals 3, but I'm just going to do plus equals 1. Or the simplest, fastest way is the incrementing I plus plus. So let's use that. Okay, let's run it. So for those, you guys can see the build system down here. The computer is going crazy right now. It is basically, let's check the activity monitor. Percent of CPU, 110%. Node, right? I have a node build system. That's what's running right now. Your high CPU, okay, I better kill it. Okay, I've canceled it by Control C. So why did that happen? Why did that stop?
Because you build an infinity loop.
I just built an infinite loop. You want to try to avoid this for this reason, right? It's going to just totally fry your CPU. Your computer's going to be like, I'm working too hard. What we need to do is have a condition that eventually is going to be false to allow our computer to stop doing this same thing over and over and over again. Just as a quick side note, which I think is interesting, infinite loops are actually used in programming in some ways. Like in your browser, basically there's sort of like an infinite loop of evaluating your JavaScript going on. It's constantly looking for new things to evaluate, looking for changes. So it's not just, it is bad when you do it unintentionally, but like there are places where actually infinite loops are used in programming. But we don't want that. We want a condition to be false. So what could I type here inside this while to make this end at some point? How about Vivian? I just see your name in my chat here. Vivian, do you have an answer for us?
Yeah, we can give it a condition while I is less than 10.
Less than 10. Let's try it. Let's get rid of these guys. Oops, not those, these guys. Wow, that was a lot faster. My computer thanks you. So what happened here? We gave it this condition to check if it was 10. At first, I was equal to 1. It was true. Condition was true. It did something. 2, 3, 4, all the way. But eventually it got here and it said, hey, is I less than 10? And it wasn't. So what it did is it jumped out of here. I'm going to take that off. Jumped out. Condition was false, which causes us to break out of this loop. That's bad. Okay. Any questions? All right, I'm going to take that silence for a no. Your pairs are up on the board, so go ahead, find your pair, set up the same thing, hang out Clubus, works with the prompts, and Dan and I will be stopping by, and we'll be available for questions. All right, guys, enjoy.